Hi friends, it's Heather with Running with Scissors, and today we are making your Dashing Doors March 2024 door hanger, and that's door hanger number 18. And it is this one, the Squeeze the Day Citrus Door Hanger. All right, let's get started. All right, so today we are painting your March 2024 door hanger. That's door hanger number 18. And if you've been with us since the very beginning, congratulations. This is the 18th door hanger you will have painted. So you're going to need any white, any black. Of course, I have great big bottles because I go through a lot of white and black. And then the other colors I picked out were Deco Art Jack-o'-lantern orange. Now that's not really the orange that I wanted, but I didn't to find an orange that I liked. So I'll end up adding some white to that to change that color just a little bit so it's not so vibrant. I also went with Apple Barrel Lime Sherbet, Apple Barrel Bright Magenta, once again, not the color pink I had wanted. So we will mix that with white to get a color that I really wanted for like the pink grapefruit. And then I went with Apple Barrel Yellow Flame for the lemon. Okay, so we're gonna get started here. Now, in every shipment, you get this sheet here, and it tells you things that you are going to need, things that you might need, and of course, this whole bottom section is a bunch of tips. Now, I do give you tips throughout the tutorial, but sometimes there may not be things that I cover, and you can find that kind of thing down here. So you should have a hair dryer handy. You will also have received a half sheet of graphite paper. Now I just keep using the same one over and over. You can see that that says Mary on it from my Christmas one, and it also has the R of a winter. So it's still completely usable. There's no sense in getting a new one. I also have a bunch of brushes and my Posca pens handy. I have 2 water cups up here. I use one for the first rinse and then one for the second rinse when I'm cleaning my paint brushes. And then I have a stack of napkins as well, paper towel that I can dry my brushes off on. You're going to need a scribe or an embosser or even an ink pen or a pencil will do to transfer that graphite or that the words over to the door hanger with the graphite paper. And there's my word sheet that came with my kit. And then of course you have your ribbons, which mine are off to the side there, so we'll look at those a little bit later. And a paper plate would be very handy, and you'll need your scissors as well. Okay, so we are going to get started, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use a wide brush, a 1 inch flat brush, which of course I don't have handy. I'm gonna have to run go get, but we're gonna use a wide 1 inch flat brush, and we're gonna flood this entire thing with 2 coats of white paint. Now we're going to use 2 coats because I need a nice solid coat on that outside edge. So my first coat, I'm gonna get this whole entire thing covered, and then my second coat, I'm just gonna concentrate around the outside edge, all right? So first coat, flood the entire thing. Second coat, just get around this outside border. All right, let's go. Okay, our first coat is on and it's dry. So now, like I talked about earlier, we're going to put a second coat just around the outside edge here, making sure that we cover that border a second time. Okay, we're gonna let that dry, or you can take a hair dryer to it. But most importantly, we're gonna rinse that brush out real good. You can wipe off the excess on your paper towel first, rinse it in your first water cup, and then rinse it in your second water cup, and then pull it out and dry it and lay it flat so it can dry the remaining way. Okay, let's get this dry and then we'll come back and we will get started. Okay, I'm going to paint the lemon first. Now, as I was sitting here thinking about how I was going to do this, I decided to add in a brighter yellow. So you'll see on your sheet that even though I didn't talk about it in the opening, that I did list Deco Art Bright Yellow. And that's because I was sitting here thinking like, well, this yellow flame is great. It's a nice light lemon color. But I really want the outside edge of each of my citrus fruits to be a little bit darker. So I'm going to use this bright yellow and this yellow flame. And I might end up mixing them together. I'm not sure how that's going to work out for me quite yet. So I'm going to squeeze out a little bit of each one on my plate. Oh yeah, I actually don't even think I need to mix them. I think that's gonna be good. Okay. So now I'm going to take one of my angle brushes, and if this is your first video with me, you will know that angle brushes, or if this is your first video with me, you will learn quickly that angle brushes are my favorite brushes to paint with. And I do have a favorite brand, and you can find all of my favorite stuff on our VIP page on Facebook that you should be a part of. I don't know how to pronounce this. It's Bomeija, maybe. It's Bomeija, and they make all different paintbrushes, all different heads. And they are definitely my favorite. I go through a lot of paintbrushes because I paint a lot. So I paint probably 2 or 3 of these door hangers a month that I use my angle brushes on. So these are not very expensive. You'll probably pay around $15 to $20 for a package, but I think there's maybe like 10 in a pack. So, and then they make the flat ones and they make the round ones. So they have all of the different brushes available, and they are my favorites. So I'm starting with a number 8, and I'll probably use a number 8 throughout this because of the size of the area that we are painting. So the first thing I'm going to do, oh, and also I always start, or I try to start with the lightest color paint because it will cover easier if something happens, right? I have a package of baby wipes handy because if you make a mistake, usually you can grab it right up with a baby wipe before it dries. Acrylic paint takes a little bit longer to dry than the paint that we use in the studio. So you have a little bit more time to clean up an error. All right, so I'm going to use the lighter of the yellow first. Now that was the apple barrel yellow flame. And I put too much on my plate. You don't need that much. I'm going to come in and I'm going to paint all of these inner parts here with that color. Now, once again, if this is your first door hanger that you're painting with us, you do not have to be incredibly precise on these lines because we will use our Posca pens and come in and clean these up by tracing around the edges. So this, you don't have to be a great painter to do these. All right. So we may need 2 coats. I'm not sure yet. We'll see how it goes. But for now, I'm going to shut up and I'm just going to paint these inner parts. And I'll speed this video up so you don't have to watch and listen to all of it. And come back when you're ready. Our first coat of the inner part of our lemon. Now I don't even think that it's going to need a second coat. I just I'll look at it and see, and if I think there's a couple spots that need it, I might touch it up, but it looks pretty good to me. One thing I didn't mention to do is just to make sure that you pick up any bumper lines of paint, and that's just like what would be left along the edges from your paintbrush. Make sure you get those because that will dry just like it is. So I don't think I'm gonna put a second coat on that. I think that's good. I think I'm gonna move over to this darker yellow for the outside edge. I'm not even going to rinse my brush just because it's still the same color family. I'm just gonna load it up with that color, the darker color, and then I'm gonna come and I'm gonna do that outside edge there. So I'm just gonna go ahead and wipe off the excess paint on my paper towel from my brush, and then I'm gonna rinse it, my double rinse, and dry it. Now I did make a small mistake right here. I got a little too far over with my yellow, and it's so far over that I don't think my paint marker will cover it. So I am gonna come back in with just a tiny little bit of white, and I'm gonna cover that back up. Now we are going to move on to our pink grapefruit. And if you remember from the beginning, I told you that I didn't love this color, but I could not find, I have a lot of paint. I have over 200 bottles of acrylic paint. I could not find a pink that I liked for the pink grapefruit. This was the closest shade, but still not what I wanted. So I am putting a quarter size thing of white on my plate, and I'm also putting about a quarter size of the bright magenta. I don't need all of that, but I don't want to not have mixed enough to finish it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm probably gonna do that outside edge, this darker straight up magenta, but the inner parts I'm going to mix lighter and use the lighter shade. Now I don't use the bristle part of my paintbrush to mix paint because it breaks the bristles down, and it also loads way too much paint into your paintbrush. More paint than you will need, more paint than you will be able to rinse out. So I use the wrong end of the paintbrush. You can also use an old junky paintbrush that you don't paint with anymore, or you can use a popsicle stick. Okay, that looks good to me. I like those two contrasts. I like the lightness of the magenta. All right, so I'm still using that number 8 angle brush. I just cleaned it out, and I'm gonna keep using it. So next we're gonna paint this pink grapefruit. Now I understand that this is not the color of pink grapefruit. I get it. But this is the color that I wanted it to be. So you choose whatever color you want. You never have to use the colors that we use. You use whatever you want to use. Now we're going to do the same exact thing here. We're going to do this inner part with the lighter color. And if it needs 2 coats, then we'll give it 2 coats, but we're going to let it dry really, really well. Or you can hit it with a hair dryer to make sure it's dry before you put that second coat on. Make sure you pick up all your bumpers. So don't leave any little rows of paint behind from the edges of your paintbrush. Pick all those up. Smooth them out. If it needs 2 coats, give it 2 coats. And then we'll see you back here to start the outer edge with that darker pink. To use that straight magenta from the bottle, and we're going to do this outside rim. Pink grapefruit and the magenta paint, we're going to have to mix that different color. Now if you don't like any oranges you find, you can make your own orange, so keep that in mind as well. Alright, so I'm just going to grab a little bit of that orange and start mixing it in with my white. Oh, that looks pretty good to me. So now we're going to repeat this same as we just did with the pink grapefruit. I actually don't like that color now that it's on there. I want it to be a little more vibrant. So I'm going to have to add some more orange to that paled out orange. And I'm actually going to push it off to the side and start a mix all over again, because I'll end up using way more paint than I need. if I continue to mix in that wrong color section. So you can see over here this is the wrong color. So I just pushed some of it aside and added the orange straight from the bottle, and I'm going to mix it into there. If I were to try to add orange straight from the bottle to that whole entire section, I would use a lot of paint. I need enough of a contrast that it will look different up against the bottles, the color straight from the bottle. So we want to be able to tell that the inside part that we're painting, the lighter color, is actually a lighter shade. Okay, I'm happy with that. All right, let's start again. I'm gonna actually wipe off the excess paint that was on my brush and grab the new color. And then we're gonna go right over top. Now this, all of this inside that I'm painting now, I'm gonna say most likely is going to need 2 coats. It's the nature of orange paint. So I'm just gonna go ahead and bank on the fact that I'm gonna have to do 2 coats. So let's get all these painted with this color, and let's plan on putting 2 coats on once the first coat is dry, and then we'll come back when it's time to paint that outer edge. White paint because I made a little bit of a mistake there. But I'm going to, while we wait for those to dry, I'm going to go ahead and do the outside with the straight from the color bottle. Straight from the bottle color. To move on to our leaves. Now for our leaves, we've got quite an open space here, so we're going to switch over to a bigger brush. I'm still going to use an angle brush, but I am going to use a number 10 or a number 11, whichever you have available. It's probably one of your larger angle brushes. I have a number 10 available. I would prefer a number 11 and even a 12, but, oh, here's one. Okay, here is a number 12 angle brush. Now this one is a well-loved brush, but we are still going to use it. All right, and we are going to put a little bit of that lime sherbet on our plate. That is the apple barrel green I am using. You can use any color green that you want to use. That is the one I have chosen. And we are going to just come in and get our leaves painted. All right. It will probably need a second coat. I can see that when it dries, it's most likely going to end up with some white spots. So we'll put a second coat on each of these as well. Of that green, because I pretty much used everything that was on my plate, and I'm going to take a little bit of white, and I'm going to make just a little bit lighter of a shade of that green. And then I'm going to use a round brush. This is a number 11. It's a fairly big brush, but these leaves are kind of big. So I'm going to take this number 11 brown or round brush, and I'm going to dip it into that new lighter paint. And I'm going to take and do just like a little swirly swoop in each of the centers of these leaves. I want it to kind of be a thick swoop though, so I might have to add paint a couple of times. Okay, can you see that? There you go. All right, and then we'll do the last one here. I don't think about this too much, guys. If you've watched all the other videos, you'll hear me say 1,000 times, don't overthink it. All right. I'm gonna widen this one up a little bit here. There we go. All right, we're gonna go ahead and wipe and rinse off that brush. All right, now we're moving on to the border. So I'm going to put some black paint on my plate, and I'm going to use a flat brush for this, and I'm going to use a flat number 10. It's a little bit wider of a flat brush, but I'm going to make wide stripes around the outside edge here. And so if I can use just one brush to make that stripe, that would be my preference. So that's why I'm going to use that number 10. It's the day after Christmas while I'm recording this tutorial, and I have all new brushes that I'm pretty excited about. Except I did not get a number 12 angle, so that's why I had to use my old one. So the reason why I told you that is when these brushes come, they come stiff. The bristles come glued together. Now it's a water-soluble glue, So all you have to do is dip the brush in a little bit of water for about 3 seconds and then just rinse it off. And then the bristles are, they're free, they're loose. So that's pretty nice because that protects the bristles during shipping. So you don't end up with frayed bristles or, you know, bristles that go every direction. All right, so I'm just gonna start in a section here and I'm gonna start making stripes. And I'm gonna start from the rind or the outside edge of the color or of the citrus fruit. And I'm gonna pull back to the edge of the cutout. And I'm not measuring these, they're not pre-marked. You can see I'm just coming in and making stripes. All right, and that is it for the painting. So now we have to do all the detail work, but we have to make sure that this is all dry. So there are a couple spots here that I wanted to clean up where I had gotten paint over. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna take and touch those up now. Okay, the first thing that we're going to do on this is we're going to take our Posca 5 white. So that's our Posca 5 white. This is a medium tip. And you're going to want to make sure that you have your white pen shook up really well, because unlike black can sit for a long time and you can just pop the cap off and use it no problem. But the problem with the white is the white paint settles inside the marker and then it comes out runny if you don't shake it like a muted white. So you want a nice white first. And then we're going to take into each of the centers of our flesh here of our fruit. We're just going to make like sort of like a triangle. Oh, you can see that really good on the screen there, so you can see what I did. And then we're just going to do this in every one. And then we're just going to use our white paint marker to do that. Now you could use paint, of course. So if you'd rather use paint, go ahead and use a white paint. But this is really quick and easy and it turns out really well. So we're just going to go ahead and do it with our white paint marker. And we want to make sure that that's dry, so don't get your hands in it or anything like that. Now we're going to take our number 5 black, same thing, make sure it's primed well. Before you shake it or prime it anymore, just test it on your paper or your pizza box or paper plate or something. And I'm going to go around the outside of each of these fruits, and then I'm going to go along the inside part as well. And then we're going to do this last sleeve. Now, if you want to, you can do the outside edges of each of your stripes that you made with your paint marker or with your paint, but I don't feel the need to do that. I think mine are fine the way they are. But if you want to, you can take your paint marker and you can do the edges of each one of those like that if you need to clean it up. I had a nice paintbrush. You know, my paintbrush was brand new, so it did really well just doing it with the paintbrush and not outlining it with the paint marker. Okay, so now one part I'm struggling on here, and I'm not certain I want to do yet. Part of me wants to do it because you can see my score marks through my lighter colored lemon there, but I'm struggling with, do I outline the inside of each of the fruit with the black marker or not right now? And I'm still quite undecided. I will show you why I'm contemplating it. See, you can see my score marks because my light yellow paint is very light. So I'm debating that right now. Still debating, not sure what I'm gonna do quite yet. We'll decide in a minute here. So, but what I am gonna do first, because I'm just not sure yet, while I think about it, I'm going to take my graphite paper and I'm going to take my words, squeeze the day here. I'm actually going to cut my words apart so I can place them easier. I'm going to just take my paper and my scissor and I'm just going to cut around it like that. So there we go. Our words are all separated. And I'm going to turn this up so it's right side up, and I'm going to position the words where I want them. I'm going to do squeeze across the orange, the across the yellow, and day across the pink, the pink grapefruit. And then for each one, I'm just going to lift it up and slide the paper underneath, the graphite paper underneath. Now remember, the shiny part goes down, the dull part goes up. And now I'm just going to take, you can take a pencil or an ink pen, or you can take your scribe or embosser. And I'm going to trace around my letters. I'm going to try not to go to the outside of my letters because this is transferring that graphite to the wood. And if I go outside of my letter, it's hard to get that off. And so I'm just going to gently trace the letter, staying on the black part of the letter, not the outside edge. Right, so just inside. Try to work your way around one letter at a time so you remember where you were, so you don't miss anything. Now, I'm also trying not to put a lot of pressure on the graphite paper with my side of my hand here that's resting on it, because smudging the graphite paper onto the wood will transfer smudge marks. And we don't want to ruin our sign we just painted. You don't have to press hard. Just gentle pressure will transfer it. Okay, now before I take off my entire thing, I'm just gonna hold it down on one side, and I'm gonna lift up. I'm gonna make sure I got the entire word or all of the letters transferred. I missed a small spot down here. And there we go. Okay, I'm gonna lift that up and off of there then. And there we go. We have our day on there. And now I'm going to move up to the. Same thing. I'm just gonna lift up the word, slip the graphite paper underneath, and then I'm gonna trace my letters. So we've got our transfer all done. And now we're going to take our number 5 black again, and we're going to trace the outline of each of our words and fill them in. We're going to work one word at a time. All right, let's move over to squeeze. I'm still undecided if you haven't figured it out yet. I am leaning more towards the fact that I do want to outline those. So, yeah, I think I'm going to. So let's just go ahead and do that. Oh yes, I'm so happy that I ended up doing that. Okay, let's just go ahead and finish our letters then, our words. Okay, now we're just going to add just a little bit of white highlight. So you're going to use your number 3 white. Okay, that's your number 3. That's your thinnest one. And quite often I have to color on my tablecloth or my table cover to get out any black, because I quite often, just like I'm going to do now, I am going over the top of black with my white paint marker, and it tends to leave it on the tip, so I have to work that out. So I've got a nice clean white, and I'm just going to come in my center of my leaf where I did those little curlicues with the lighter green, and I'm just gonna come over the top of those. Just quick, don't overthink it, okay? All right, now let's see, what else are we gonna do? I kind of feel like I don't want to overdo it, but let's see what this looks like. Now, here's the good thing about me doing this first. You can decide whether or not you like it before you do it. So let's just come in around the outside of each of these. And let's do this one too. All right. How's that look? Oh, I think that looks really good. I don't really think we need to do much more. Let's do the outside of the leaves. And you can see I don't get exactly on the line. Once again, it's one of those things. Don't overthink it. All right. I don't think I'm going to do much more. Now, the only other thing that you could do to this is you could add some white highlight areas to the letters, like on the tops of the curves. All right, I think that's it. There's nothing on the. You could add a couple things in here if you wanted to. All right, that's all I'm gonna do for that. So now we just have to do our ribbon and our hanger. Okay, so in your package, you had a piece of jute for your hanger, and then you had a few different ribbons. So, and some zip ties. So we're going to take our ribbons, and you have a double length of the lemon with the black and white check. So I'm just gonna leave that folded, and I'm gonna pile all the ribbons together, and then I'm gonna fold them up like a taco. And then from the folded edge, so that's the folded edge, up and out to the corner, I'm gonna snip that off. I'm gonna flip my ribbons around so I can do the other side the same way. Fold up like a taco from the folded edge up and out. I'm just gonna snip that off. Now we did just get new scissors in the studio, and they're not great, so we have new ones on order. Oh, so frustrating. Okay, so now you have, if you didn't quite cut your folded one apart, the lemon, you'll have to trim that apart there. Sometimes I don't get it all the way out to the edge. So you're just going to make an X with your ribbons, just like that. And then take the long zip tie and zip it around the center of all of them. Move the cinch to the back and start cinching it down, making sure your ribbons are staying right side out and not folding in. Before you get it super tight though, go ahead and slide that other small zip tie through the back of that one. And then you can finish cinching that down all the way, and then just trim it really close. And then let's come over with our jute. And we are going to take the ends of our jute and put one end through each of these holes here. All right, we're gonna bring those two ends together, and then we're gonna have this front loop here we're gonna pull up, and you're gonna see how long you want that hanger to be. That looks about good to me. I'm gonna pinch those two loose strands at the top of that hanger, and then I'm going to do an overhand knot in just those two strands there. Right where I pinched it's where I'm gonna cinch that knot down at. I'm gonna trim that excess jute. I'm gonna pull one side so that that knot goes to the back of the hole, and then I'm gonna pull both of those loops up where they meet. Then I'm gonna take my ribbons and I'm gonna put them on one side or the other. Usually I would say you put your ribbons where you pulled your knot to, but I want mine on the other side this time. You could move your knot over, or you could just leave it there, whichever you want to do. I'm going to cinch that loose zip tie around both of those strands on that one side, really close to the bottom. And then I'm going to trim that excess zip tie off. And there we have our sign. All right, that's it, folks. We're going to move on to the next one.